Okay, let's send the post.
We are live.
We are live. Hi, this is Willow Wraith Press, and this is our first inaugural and official. Wow, had that on the background. Let's start that again. This is why we're live and first. So we are Willow Wraith Press, and this is the first episode of Schmudgeon of Curmudgeon. I'm Bill Adams with the guy over on this side, Mr. Dewey Conway. And we just want to invite you into our little nerdy world. So first up, the first thing we want to talk about is I want to kick this off with a bang. And because Mr. Conway is a middle grade author through and through, we're going to change the terms a little bit. But I want to start with Mr. Star Trek fan over here. Who would you kiss, marry? Yes, you. Kiss, marry, or put a red shirt on and beam them down into a den of bad guys? Captain Kirk, Captain Picard, or Scott Bakula? You can't pick Janeway because Janeway's the best. We all know that she's the best.
Well, Scott Bakula or Archer? Captain Archer.
Well, whatever his name is.
That's Star Trek. Let's see. Who would I kiss? Who would I send as a red shirt? And what's the third one? Mary?
Mary.
Well, I would think I would, of the three, Captain Kirk, he's the OG. I think he'd be the kisser, but I don't think he's the marrying type. So yeah, definitely Captain Kirk would be my kissing choice. For Mary, well, I really do like vineyards. so I think, retiring in France, in the Chateau Picard, yeah, for sure, Jean-Luc. And sending as a red shirt, Captain Archer, because he just annoys me. He was not. No. I mean, I like Scott Bakula as an actor, but the captain,
Yeah. See,
I hope that helps. I was going to say Wesley, but he wasn't a choice. He didn't give me his Wesley to send down as a red shirt, because Wesley I would send as a red shirt down into the fray. All right, Mr. Genius, figure your way out of this one with all the Gorn.
Yeah, well, okay. That's a good one. Dewey. I figured that's what you were going to go with, but I never know you sometimes.
Oh, so I didn't disappoint.
No, I picked those same ones. Oh, we got Tim and we got Jared here. You missed the question. So because you missed the question, I want to ask it again for these two gentlemen that are watching. Middle grade terminology for Mr. Dewey Conway. Who would you kiss? Who would you marry? And who would you put a red shirt on and beam down in Star Trek? Picard, Kirk, or Scott Bakula's captain?
Yeah. So my answers were, for kissing, it'd have to be Captain Kirk. I mean, Captain Kirk has to be the one because he's got the most experience with, the green women. And then for marrying, it would have to be Jean-Luc with his Chateau Picard. But the Captain Archer, I would send down into a fray as a red shirt. Honestly, he just did not do Enterprise right. But whatever.
So I never watched it. Was it officially Enterprise that they were on?
Well, it was first called Star Trek Enterprise. It was first called Enterprise, and then it became Star Trek Enterprise after the third season. But yeah. They were the first iteration of the Enterprise starship that went out exploring.
Interesting. Yeah,
it's not that interesting. I agree with that series was like,
See, that was past me. I stopped pretty much at the Next Generation. I didn't get that far.
You missed out on Deep Space Nine then, because Deep Space Nine was phenomenal.
Yeah, it came out when I was in college, so it was like not really, or when I was getting to college. That was not really what I was into at the time. So let's just say that. So, okay. Well, Deep Space Nine was amazing. Tim says
Yes,
so.
there you go. Thank you,
Tim
Tim.
knows. Tim
DS9
knows.
was amazing. It's just hard, gritty. Captain Sisko was incredible. That whole cast was incredible.
So yeah, no, that was our icebreaker, Dewey. That was what we wanted to start off with. Get it out there. We are going to ask some more, or I'm going to ask some more silly questions, just because I want to see what Dewey's answers are going to be, because it'll be fun.
You'll activate ramble mode. Is what you'll do.
Well, I'll keep you on track. I'm good at
that's
that.
the warning.
Don't worry about that. I'll
Because
keep you on track.
I stopped short with the Star Trek stuff. I did. I stopped. I was like being very conscious. I can't talk too much.
We have to have a whole show, not just a Star Trek. So, what we wanted, aside from Star Trek stuff, we want to talk about, give a little introduction to us and, what we're doing with our books, with our stories, and then also just talk the stuff that me and Dewey just ramble about all the time. And we're just going to put it on camera. So listen along with us. I hope you stay. Bring up some other topics because we like to talk about nothingness. That's what the whole point of Schmudgeon of Curmudgeon is all about. So Dewey, should we start right away? Give the guys or the people with us, the gentlemen's and the ladies and everybody else's that might be watching, a little background on yourself before we dive into these questionnaires.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, Kevin, you are. Well, we have to remedy that now, don't we? We'll send you. We'll send you some.
Good.
The
We
nothingness, Tim. We need to dive into the nothingness of. Well, no, Bill and my relationship is not nothingness. It's full of somethingness, and so is that where we're starting? We're starting with how we got started. Huh? What?
Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Mike,
okay. You made it! Yay!
So I will start since Dewey's falling behind here. So Dewey,
what do you mean?
I'm going to make you talk about Tana.
Okay.
Not so much me. So let's do your little fancy thing. How do we show that? Whoa.
Oh.
Nope. This one.
Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
We figured it out. So go ahead, Dewey. Tell us a little bit. Give me an elevator pitch of what this story is. Do you remember how to do that?
Oh, I don't do elevator pitches. Unless we're on a, what is it? What's the tallest building? The Sears Tower? Yeah, we can do that elevator. So Tana, the Tenacious Tale of Tana, the Tender Sword, is a middle grade story by myself and Bill, who the story is about a young Tender Sword who is trying to achieve her first quest. And she is this overly excited, good, happy person, genuinely enthusiastic, and loves the idea of going on her first quest. But as part of her requirements for achieving her title, which is her objective, that when she achieves a quest and when she completes the quest, she's going to get a new title. It all has to be chronicled by a chronicler in training named Galliford Quilpin, who is slightly not as cheery and happy as she is. And so the whole story revolves around Tana achieving or getting her first quest and going through the adventure and the chronicle of Tana, the Tender Sword, hopefully completing by the end of the story. So that is like
the Sears Tower of elevator pitches.
Yeah,
there were 30 floors on that elevator pitch.
I told you. And if these agents want to get off, well, then I'll just have to grab their arm and say, "No, I'm not done. Come back." Come.
Okay, so Dewey, I want to ask you because so for those that don't know, Dewey and myself wrote this book as a joint effort, and we released it as a joint effort. But the basis of this story is all Dewey's brainchild. It is from his whimsy. It was from his lovely mind. his generalness of being a teacher for many years, and he created this story in this world. So Dewey, what
Yeah.
was this? Where did the inspiration for this story come from?
That's a fantastic question. And I had to think back because on where the story started, because this story did start when I, like way back. In fact, you were probably in high school, Bill, when it first came to me. In fact, the name of Galdefort Quilpin came to me on a stormy night. I was trying to draw a character that I wanted to be a mage, and the character that I drew had bushy eyebrows, short, frowning, and had a cloak and everything. And I just looked at him and I went, "What is your name?" "Oh, let's call you Galdefort." It just came out like that, and ever since it's stuck. And that's the name that morphed into our current chronicler. And so the story itself went through a lot of iterations, as you know, but the inspiration ultimately was my. I love fantasy, but like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and I love The Wizard of Oz. I grew up on the Wizard of Oz books by L. Frank Baum, and I just love the creative whimsy of those stories, and the story itself of Tana, and the whole idea of a school, and to become to become a champion. All of that wasn't there in the beginning. It was really more of just an adventure of a young adventurer and the chronicler that went along with them. And so, um, I guess really the inspiration came from my love of not only fantasy books, but like The Dark Crystal was an early influence for me. I loved that movie as a child. Kroll was another one. So, I mean, hey, I saw it in the theater. It was awesome. The Glaive was like, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. The whole innocence of the prince rescuing the princess story trope was really something that shaped my thinking. And even though that's not here in this story, it was a inspiration to want to write a story that was set in a fantasy world with the touch of innocence to it. So that's really where it starts. I don't again, like with every story, whenever you have an idea, it goes through many ideas, many iterations of that idea. And then when Bill came along, and I was fortunate enough to have God move him into my path, um, he him and I just really struck it off, and he's always believed in this story. And then when him and I, am I getting ahead? Do you want to talk about?
No.
Okay. Um, when him and I were originally critique partners, and we were trying to go the traditional publishing route, and this is what, 2017, 2018, I don't even remember. It was a while ago, and
2017 was when we
when we first connected, right? And then like the next year, him and I went to was it the writing the
DFW con.
It was DFW Con that we went to
in
first.
Dallas. Yeah.
And so like we went to that first, and Bill had and has this fantastic, I mean, like absolutely incredible story, which has eventually turned into the his story that's coming out that I'll let him speak to in a little bit. But him and I were critiquing on that, and then he was a critique partner for me as well. And I'm not going to knock traditional publishing. I'm just not going to do it. But for me, that experience ultimately, after everything, just kind of opened up this whole idea of hopelessness. And I hate to say that, but it just did, because you query, and you think you got it and you don't have it. And the one thing I'm going to say about Bill is that he always believed in the story. And as I was like, I'm just not even going to deal with this anymore. I'm just going to go my way, go my life. He came along and asked, hey, I really think we need to go in on this together. I think this story needs to see the light of day. It needs to be published. Let's do what we need to do to get it out there. And so that's, for some reason, my brain went, okay. And that was probably the best mind switch that happened in the last couple of years. Was, okay, let's do this. And so we did, and here we are. I mean, it would not have happened if we had not gotten together.
So we got a good question from Mr. Wolf over here, Dewey, and this is a good question that I don't even know the answer to. So was it always agreed to make Gale Defort the primary POV?
Yes, he's always been the primary POV. So yes,
And
to answer
why?
your question, because he's the chronicler, and the story was best said through his eyes. Because as the hero is developing, and this is a story of realizing that you are the hero. In this case, Tana is hero through and through, from the beginning to the end. But and almost at no point does she ever really doubt herself. Maybe every now and then, just a little twinge, but it's mostly Gale Defort inspired doubt. But it's Gale Defort's point of view of doubting her and doubting that she's actually hero material, and his transformation, seeing that she is a hero, that I think is the more powerful point of view versus just Tana's from beginning to end. She's always the hero. And so it's really a transformational story for Gale Defort, for him realizing that, whoa, this is really somebody who I don't think she's going to even be able to get a quest to, wow, maybe she does have what it takes. That's the flow of the story. And it's also not only that realization, but also realizing that maybe he can trust her, maybe he can learn to be friends with her. But you can't really tell that perspective from Tana's point of view. And so that's really why it just naturally happened.
I'd like to add, though, too, and you kind of mentioned this, why I thought it was amazing that Gale Defort is the POV and not Tana, is he's, like you said, the more nuanced character and has more growth. Tana is the hero from start to finish. She knows she's the hero. She knows she's a BAMF. She's going to go out there and win. Gale Defort is not. He doesn't want to leave his little monastery. He doesn't want to, do anything that doesn't deal with books or follow the book rules. So he has more nuance, more growth, and that's why I liked him the most.
Yeah, I think Jared has a great question.
Yeah, I was going to put this up. Jared's got a great question, and this could be a long time.
Well, so the 2017, the story itself, when I was first writing it, and if with fellow writers in the room, this, you get all of these great ideas, and a lot of these ideas might not necessarily work, or they might not, they might become too much. The ideas that I had initially, which we're still kind of using some of them at some level, and in some permutation, but the ideas that I had initially for this weren't middle grade appropriate, like, and not to mean that they were inappropriate, but I mean it was too much. There was a lot of a world building that was going on that Bill helped, he helped to really streamline all of that down to the current version that it is, and still maintain the spirit of the world itself with the gods and the time and the runes of time and all of this. It was the things that I had going on in that earlier version it was a lot more, to answer your question.
Well, Jared, I know you read some of it. I don't know how far you got, but Dewey had this idea of Gale Defort having this little magic power that can kind of do almost a world jump type thing. or like a time jump. And it was a great idea, but trying to explain that to a 12-year-old might not have worked as well than in the first book. We might still use this. Like we've actually talked about, we might still use something like this, but just not at that level.
And I think it's influenced the way that we're approaching book 2 as well. Is some of these earlier ideas we changed them. Plug that book 2 is we're working on it. But with that said, these ideas, you know how as a writer you get these great ideas, you jot them down, or they even incorporate them into the book, but you never forget your ideas. So you will, if you don't use them in one place, you might use them in another place or even in another story. And that's kind of how this is working. Is we've pulled out the ideas that we're conflating the storytelling itself, and we might use them somewhere else. But for right now, I'm really happy with how streamlined the storytelling is as far as like pared down from the world that it was in 2017. Great question. Wow.
Yeah. So before we get into more book stuff, Dewey, I'm going to jump into what I'm going to call a silly question, just to get to know you a little bit more. And these other guys these other people can think of more silly questions along these lines. But I know you're a student of history. I know you pretty smart gentleman with history stuff. What time period, and you can't use the 20th century or later, what time period do you think you would excel at the most in surviving? And then counter to that, which century or centuries, give or take time period, do you think you would just be awful at surviving in?
That's a great question. Okay, so the one that I would feel like I would excel at, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I feel like I would fit right in the Augustus era Roman Empire. So the first 20 years of the first century. So 4 to 14, 4 BC to 14 AD. But the turmoil that happens after that, I don't know. I think I'd probably survive through Tiberius as well, but not. I would love to live in, but it would have to be in Rome. I wouldn't want to live out in the sticks, of hills or whatever. But where I probably wouldn't survive too well would be in the dirt and filth of the Middle Ages. I mean,
Same. I'd be awful at that. No 2-ply toilet paper, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, well, not only that, just going to the river and then seeing that's where everybody's taking their potty.
I just envision like the guys from Monty Python when they're talking about like the old lady, and he's like, I'm an old man. He's like, I'm a man. It's like, we didn't vote for you. That's just what I envision the Middle Ages to look like, where they're just picking up mud and patting it down, and I'm just like,
walking around with a wheelbarrow full of dead people. Bring out your dead.
Exactly. Jared knows what's up.
Yes, for sure. But it's really interesting because that period that I wouldn't want to live in, that provides the most entertainment to me when I'm watching shows. So like, Monty Python, The Holy Grail, The Blackadder is another favorite show of mine. With I don't know if anyone's ever seen that's an old BBC show, but it
might be older than some of us in this room.
Whatever, look it up. It's you guys can Google. I would love to go back in time and hang out with King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I would enjoy the lack of technology, says a guy whose career revolves around technology. Tim, I love you. Blackadder. So I'm talking season 1 Blackadder. And so
yeah, Bo, it depends on so what time are you saying though, Bo? Because if we get into technical terms, it's like it's supposed to be based on the Roman side or the Roman character of that time, or there's the medieval history of King Arthur that we have. So which one, Bo? We need to know. Do you want the Clive Owen version, or do you want the I don't know who played King Arthur in a lot of the fancy new movies?
So like the John Borman Excalibur King Arthur, or
Kidding, King Arthur's Court. Classic.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, I would love to live in the King Arthur era of the mythological King Arthur, with the mythological round table, like the
Yeah, with the Knights of the Round Table and all that stuff.
Right, like the Lamort de Arthur, kind of stuff, that Thomas Mallory wrote with his book, all of that kind of romantic King Arthur. I would love to live there, but like the actual King Arthur, I don't know.
Same, Bo, same.
What did you say when warriors fought with
badass swords? Made things a little bit more interesting. You survived a little bit longer.
Right. We lived to the grand old age of 42. Maybe.
Yeah. That'd be like a couple of years for me for now. You'd be in the grave a couple of years ago.
I'd be in the grave. I'd be dead. Yeah. Long gone. Yeah.
You wouldn't have made it to this juncture in that time.
All right. No, I hope that answered the question.
It does. That was a fun little exercise. Dave says swords are cool, says the guy with the sword in his picture. I'm not going to call you out on that sword though, Dave. If that's the exact sword you shared with us in our Secret Scribes group.
I like the sword.
It might be a fake.
Then we shall not say it.
See, this is what he says. This is follow up. Good job. Okay, Dewey, back to a little bit of book stuff. Or no, let's do a personal question.
Oh, sure. Is that your real hair, Dewey? Yeah, I've been asked that before. I've been asked, is that your real hair? Like I was at a conference recently, and this coworker came up and said, "I love your hair. Is it real?" And I went, "Yeah."
Still there?
Kind of question is this? There. Why are you asking me?
Okay, so Dewey, this is a good question I have for you, and I think I know the answer, but I know you're an illustrator and you did all the wonderful drawings in the Tenacious Tale. So I'm wondering why you decided to write this story versus illustrate this story.
I did attempt illustration at it. I did want the story to be a graphic novel. I did. And the thing about it is, if I were to start this story today and start writing the story out and figuring it out, it would be a graphic novel, 100%. If I was alone, if I didn't have Bill to kick me in the pants along the way, which he does, and I'm grateful for it. I like pants kicking. Anyway, so I would, if I started today, I would do it as a graphic novel. And why is because of the technology that's available. And so everything that I do now is on an iPad. I use an iPad Pro. I have, I use a program called Procreate, which I love. Adobe Fresco, not so much, but I use Procreate for everything. I feel like it's the most natural, most intuitive. But when I first started this story, that kind of technology wasn't available. The technology to digitally draw and the process being so fast and quick, that wasn't there. Everything was media, physical media. And so I'm originally trained as an artist who uses sable brush ink and crow quill, so crow quill pens. And so if for anyone who may be watching that illustrates or draws this way in this traditional fashion, knows it's a pain in the butt to draw with all of that, because if you make a mistake, you got to go back. It's what you call a destructive process. And so it really discouraged me when I was trying to make it as a graphic novel in a comic book kind of format. When I attempted that way before, this would be 2009. When I was trying, I would just get so discouraged because the process was so tedious. Now it wouldn't be, but back then it was. And so that led to, well, you know what? Let me just try to go full on. At that time, I had started teaching fifth and sixth grade kids. I started as a fifth grade language arts teacher, and I'd started teaching kids. I became more exposed to middle grade. And at that point, I thought, you know what? Let me try my hand at writing. Um, it's not as it's not as hard to do successfully, because writing down on a piece on a page, you're left at least with something that you can work with, versus if I'm drawing and I smudge the page, I'm like, oh, I got to go back and I got to. So I was just getting frustrated with the artistic process of trying to make this a story. So I credit teaching and the kids I taught to encouraging me to attempt the writing path, which I'm glad it did, because I think this is a better story than it would be a graphic novel. I think this would be if we were to do a graphic novel, it would have to be like a one shot kind of thing, for maybe a side story character or something, but it wouldn't be the story itself.
So a side story character like Pegs.
Like Pegs.
The
I'm thinking
Peg
Pegs.
Rooster that everybody loves.
Oh, I don't have a picture of Pegs. Darn it.
No, we don't have.
Well, it's on the front of the cover, but Pegs. That's going to be my question for you here in a bit, Bill.
Okay. So we got a question from the audience here. Before we jump in,
how do you go?
Dave wants to know. let me show you, Dave. It goes, and out it comes.
Yeah. Well, it is real. It happens to be. I credit my dad, I guess, because he passed down the Viking genetics to me. My dad was all red. He was like a big Viking. He was incredible. I mean, he had this voice. You talk like this, like, boy, get over here right now. And he had this huge beard, and he worked out in the refinery, and he was just one of these good old hard Texas boys that had a big red beard. And I just happened to inherit that from him. That's probably the only thing I inherited from him.
Well, from what you tell me of your dad, you guys are a little bit different.
We're a little different.
To say the least. Just a little bit. Okay, I have a question, Dewey.
Yes.
Got one more question, and then if you want to ask me anything, we can ask me stuff. But I like asking questions. So, this is a silly question.
Oh, boy.
If you had to choose any fictional character to help you defeat the T-1000, who would you choose?
If I had to choose a fictional character to help me defeat the T-1000.
Yeah, the Terminator from Terminator 2. Yeah, Robert Patrick, where he's...
I mean, Arnold was the perfect foil for that. I mean, he was the perfect fighting machine against the T-1000. It'd be hard to... Let's see. Okay,
I think people are helping you here, Dewey. People are helping you here.
Oh, Pegs. Yeah, I would say, yeah. Pegs has a special sword. We haven't really gotten into too much, but I think Pegs would defeat easily the T-1000. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you got the help to answer that question.
Thank you. Well, I started thinking Xena. I was going to say Xena because I had a big crush on Xena.
I mean, I think everybody that grew up in the 90s that was going through puberty.
Not Gabrielle. I didn't want Gabrielle. No. Xena was the one. Like that big. She was just like, I was starting to think about her, but yeah, Pegs would be the more appropriate answer.
Well, Xena would work too. She would use her little circular discus thing that she threw.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
I can
Yeah,
get behind Xena.
I can do Xena, but
Well,
not Gabrielle.
that sounded so bad. Trying to keep it PG for Mr. Dewey.
Oh, and you're a middle grade author. Now stop.
only on good days.
I'm on every day. And that's true. That's great. That's going to lead into a question I have for you. So if you
Okay.
want to keep asking me questions, that's
Ooh.
great. But I think it's my turn. And I would love to know the story of your influence on pegs. Like how
On
did
pegs. Okay.
yeah, like what's your big stamp? Like what did you do?
So should I give? I'm not going to give spoilers away, but should I give the back history to that?
Yeah. Well, like where was pegs before?
Okay, so in the 2017 version, I like how we're calling it the 2017 version, or the Dewey Conway 1 version. Pegs was actually Peggy, and Peggy was a chicken, not a rooster. But Peggy still had a peg leg, and she didn't have a sword at the time. I added the sword.
Mhm.
The reason I added the sword was spoiler reasons for Pegs' backstory, which I'm not going to
No
spoil
spoilers.
here. I'm not going to spoil here, but we will explain. And if you have read the story, the people that have told me on the side have guessed correctly what it is. I mean, we're doing a middle grade book, so I would hope people over the age of 20 would get what we did there. It was not exactly too hidden,
It's
but
not meant to be.
what?
It's not meant to be. I
No,
mean, I
it's
think
not meant to
yeah,
be.
yeah.
But yeah, so I changed Pegs to a rooster and added the sword, and the main reason why we switched to a rooster was because of specific spoiler reasons. And we also made Pegs a little bit more. I mean, there is a scene, and this isn't a spoiler because it's a funny scene in the books, but Pegs swallows some fire berries, and Bert belches fireballs to help save Tana and Galdefort during the scene. Peggy always did that, but other than that, Peggy was kind of, I don't want to say there because she did have an important role in the story, but because of the backstory we added to Pegs has a much more deeper interaction and connection to Galdefort.
Yes.
And Galdefort doesn't know this, why, but they have a lot more interaction, and there's a lot more. It's funnier because if you know who Pegs, or if you figure out who Pegs is, Galdefort, his interactions is a lot funnier. So I thought when we were coming together to come up with ideas to make, like Dewey said earlier, to streamline some ideas, that was one of them, was really honing in on who Pegs was and why Pegs was important to the story.
And I'm gonna add there, that wasn't streamlined so much as that was like completely improving the character of, I mean, completely, because the change that it's really funny. I still remember it. We were chatting about this, and Bill said, "So," and how Bill says, "So, what do you think? What would you think about making a small change to changing Peggy to Pegs, and this is why." And he told me why, and I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense." Because before, Peggy was like Bill said, was there. Peggy just served as kind of, as you would in a middle grade story, have a cool little familiar character, like a pet of some kind. She was like that. But she had this peg leg, so, and she was this fighting rooster or a hen, and it was still cool. But the suggestion of changing to pegs and the reason why elevated the story, elevated the reason why Pegs was there. And I was like, yeah,
And now
that's it.
Pegs is the favorite character of everybody. So.
Yeah, I love it. You know, it was really funny. I remember when we were at the DFW con, and you know, I don't know whoever has in the chat who's been to one of these things where you go and you know you get to you pay some money and you get to pitch to an agent and whatever. And so I did that, and I went and I pitched to this agent, and she was like half my age, and you know, real nice and whatever, but she was way too excited for my personality. But anyway, so I sat down with her and I explained the story to her, and I told her about the peg leg chicken, and she went, "Oh my gosh, I just love that idea!" And she went over to this other agent and pulled that agent from talking to that person that they were interviewing, and pulled him and said, "You've got to hear this. He's got a chicken with a peg leg." And I thought to myself, so this is a great idea. And then I also thought, wow, that's really rude. She should have done that. But I thought, wow, that's a really great idea. And that kind of was a nice validation for the idea of having this character with the peg leg. But long story short, the collaboration between Bill and myself as co-authors, that's one little example of how the co-authorship has elevated the story. So I just want to kind of bring it back to that, because that's what's really important. This story wouldn't have happened without our co-authorship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Dewey. I mean, you obviously are the brain, like I said, the brainchild and the inspiration for the story. But, you know, I always felt that we could come together and come up with, like, whenever we talk, like, just in, like, if none of you guys were here and we were just talking, we would still be BSing and coming up with ideas, because that's just what we do. And, you know, some of the ideas that he's come up with for my story has been incorporated. So, like, there are a few things that he's incorporated into my stuff. So we just come up with ideas, you know, and we're always just like building off of it. So, like, as Dewey briefly mentioned earlier, we are in the very beginning stages of starting book 2. Dewey just started writing it this past week. For those that were wondering, and I know people have asked, like, how do you work as a co-authorship? So basically what our process is in a nutshell is we get on a Zoom call like this and just say, okay, what do we want the plot to be? And then we have the overarching plot. And then we kind of go almost chapter by chapter ish, or like good section by good section. And then say, okay, this is what needs to happen here. This is what needs to happen here. And then this what needs to be happen here. And then what we do is, because Dewey is the middle grade author, like that's his natural writing style is middle grade, he'll do the first pass. Like he'll start writing the chapters, you know, he'll write a chapter and then send it my way. And the whole purpose of him writing it first is to get that middle grade voice down and get like the basis there. And not to mention, Galdefort is Dewey Conway. Galdefort Quillpen is Dewey Conway. Galdefort Quillpen is Dewey Conway. We'll say that 100 times. That's who they are. So like Dewey will get that voice down, and then he'll pass it to me. And I'm one of those writers where I will rewrite each draft from scratch just to make things like flow better sentence wise. Like if, you know, things feel choppy, I'll like be able to do that more naturally by starting over, but also it helps me get into the groove of that chapter. So what I do then at that point is just do a little editing and then add a little flavor, as I like to call it. Because like some of the stuff that I wrote, like if you read the book, the epilogue chapter was all me. I wrote that from scratch, and that type of imagery I bring into that second draft. So like so if you've read it, chapter 2 is where we get introduced to what is called the fog blight, which is a very misty creature monster that's in this book. And I like Dewey had this great scene in there but I just kind of upped a little bit of the ante with a little bit more zhuzh, if you will, that I come from with a little bit more of an adult mindset of saying this is let's make this a little bit more scary, a little bit more, but not too much more. And then I pass it back to Dewey, and we go a couple more times back and forth. And that's how our process works.
And it works. I think we've talked. I have not read I've read. Which iteration did I read, Bill?
So the God's Blood Tragedy that is coming out this month, plug.
Oh yeah,
is
we need to do that.
a complete. Well, we get there in a second. Okay. That is probably iteration 9 or 10, give or take. I'm just making that number up. It's a high number. 2017 version is a completely different version. Then Dewey also read a separate story, because the God's Blood Tragedy is actually 3 stories in one. 3 separate stories that I wrote that I combined into one big series. So Dewey has read part of the original version, and then the completely separate story, which is like the rebellion side of the story with the floating fortress that I have. He read that one.
Oh, I loved that.
Because that was a little bit more sci-fi based. He read that one. And then he's read part of what I'm calling my fantasy noir, which is part of book 2's plot.
Yeah.
So you read that part too. So then I combined all 3 of them into one main series. So he's read a lot of it, just not this exact version.
And the reason for that would be because I'm slow. That's it. I'm a slow reader, and honestly, what's really
that's true, Tim.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, okay, so yeah, I when Bill says I'm a middle grade person, he's not making things up. I'm really my favorite one of my favorite books of all time is it's a graphic novel. It's Bone by Jeff Smith. I don't know if y'all know Bone by Jeff Smith, but I love that book. But yeah, I don't read blood and guts and stuff like that. That's just not my flavor. So when I do read it, I read it intentionally, and the intentionality of reading a story like that, it takes me time to read, and I need to read your most recent book because I loved the story. I loved it. Like the idea of well, I mean, I know it's changed, but one of my favorite characters is there we go. You got it. Let's see. Is one of my favorite characters is Lojin, who is Usagi Yojimbo. I have Usagi upstairs. The whole thing. The whole yes. Andrew, I'm glad I knew there's a reason I liked you. Okay, so the God's Blood Lojin in this story is one of my favorite characters, and I don't know if you want to give spoilers of what Lojin is, but
okay, so one of the things that I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory.
Give me the elevator pitch, Bill.
No, I'm not going to give you the elevator pitch. I'm going to give you the inspiration for this specific part of the book. So there is a character. So the character Lojin is what I call a draken. I have multiple types of dragons or drakes in this story, and draken are anthropomorphic drakes that are like 7-8 feet tall, give or take, and Lojin is like this giant cinnamon roll, but honor, and this will be right up Andrew Meredith's alley there. They're honor bound. They're just like very direct, like they're judges, counselors, all this stuff. They're called ward keepers. And Lojin is trying to redeem his failed father. His failed father. Yeah, this is good, Dave. This is perfect. But so Logan, so I the inspiration that came out of this story that I had was I had this floating fortress idea, and this floating fortress is chained over the city that they're fighting in by these massive building wide chain links. And I have a scene where Logan climbs or scales the chain, and the inspiration of that scene came from the movie Where Eagles Dare. Good old Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton, who kill, the whole Third Reich and part of the Fourth without reloading. They just kill all the Nazis. And there's a scene, because if you've seen the movie, Where Eagles Dare it takes place in a castle that is like on this mountain, and the only way to get up to it is from a gondola. And there is a scene, the climax of the scene is they're fighting on top of these gondolas. And I always had this idea of like, that would be such a great scene to have a fantasy scene of, where there's like gondolas going up to a fortress and people are either fighting on it or scaling that chain or that gondola chain. So I actually have both in this story. I have Logan, who scales the chain, and then the main character Ash actually, this is not really a spoiler, but gets into a fight with a bad guy on the gondola. So like that was just the idea. That little idea from that movie spawned a lot of the whole plot of this book. And Logan, I just love the idea of a dragon character that's kind of like a person almost, but then he's also this big cinnamon roll. Like he's clumsy, he's scared, he's like completely honor bound, and like then he has a sister, and his sister is just like, I want revenge, I want to murder everybody, basically, and he's trying to watch out for her and all this stuff. So that's Logan in a nutshell. And I know Tim loves Logan because Logan is a lizard person. Lizard people unite. Ooh, ooh.
So, also, I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm also going to be privileged enough to get a special copy, I think, I better be, of the God's Blood Tragedy that Bill's putting together. I'm really excited to get that.
Well, you should be, because you did a lot of the work on the cover art.
Well, no, I mean like what you're planning to do for those special.
Yeah,
special
I did.
books.
I'd show it to you, but it's green, so you're not going to see it on my green screen. I did my testing of my sprayed edges, and yeah, the light color, I did a couple different colors, and I did a pale green. It doesn't look too good. The darker colors definitely look a lot better, for sure.
Awesome. That's exciting. I think now maybe a good time to talk about, like, if you want to, the self-publishing thing, because this is our first. The Gospel of Tragedy is the first foray into Ingram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know if we want to talk about our self-publishing journey, because that's a good story, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a journey is definitely a good way to put it. So I kind of mentioned this. I was on with Dave and another guy who were part of a little group called the Secret Scribes. We're just like a motorcycle gang with no motorcycles, and just trying to be cool, having fun and stuff like that. But the self-publishing journey, and most of the people I know you are watching are self-published authors. It's not an easy thing to do. Like, that's all the stuff that you have to do to get the book out. Not just writing it. There's the editing, there's the marketing, there's the good stuff. But the actual part of publishing, hitting publish, is just a pain in the neck. And just a number. I'm sure it's a heck of a lot easier now than it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. But there's just so many steps that you have to go through, like, and just do some stuff to do. We do have motorcycles, apparently. So take that and multiply it by 2, because this industry, or this setup is not designed for co-authors at all. I'm going to use the example of just setting up author pages on Goodreads. You have to have a verified email address. But if we both wanted to be an author on the same book and be a Goodreads author, we both have to have that verified. So we have to both set stuff up just to both get our names on there. Otherwise, we're just names on there, and it could be anybody. And luckily enough, unfortunately enough, cursed enough, I have a very unique name, apparently, with Bill Adams, and Goodreads has like 3,500 Bill Adams type names on there, and they don't give you. Here's their secret that I found out through the librarians group, is if you have a similar name, the amount of spaces between your first and last name is what identifies you. So I am Bill Adams with 11 spaces in between my first and last name. That's how they set it up. It's so dumb. It's such a goofy ass process. So dealing with that was just one step of the whole process. As all you authors know, it's just not fun, not easy, and it's even worse when there's 2 of you.
Yeah. That was, I remember when we were trying to go the traditional published route, and I would always, and back then, I think you're right. As I was getting discouraged with it all, I had started investigating in self-publishing, and at the time there was all these things you could buy. You could buy like the Amazon KDP publishing pack, and it was this big set of books that you could purchase for like $100, and it would step you through how to publish everything. And I will say, even though it was a meticulous, tedious process, I think compared to before, it was with KDP anyway, it was a better process. However, I'm also going to throw this out there, that in order to self-publish, you're not just an author, you're not just a writer, you're also a graphic designer, you're also a book layout expert, you're also a social media expert, you're all these things that the message for that isn't out there, and so you really have to have a grasp on, okay, what does layout mean? What does bleed mean? What do trim cuts mean? What does all this terminology actually mean in my world? And how do I even understand it when I just want to write my story? I just want to get it out there. And so that in itself is almost a gatekeeper, because then you have, so the process itself becomes that, okay, we're going to keep those that aren't willing to take that next step out of this publishing game, which, is kind of, that's not nice. I really wish it was a little simpler. Now, and everybody's talking about AI and whatever. I want to keep AI as far away from our stuff as possible. But with that said, I predict that AI will be the next step in self-publishing for authors. Like, it'll be the next aid that's going to help out, because it just seems like that's where AI might excel, is in the little tedious, nitpicky settings kind of thing.
Hopefully.
And I would welcome that, oh, hey, hello. So with that said, I think that, Bill and I, we first started, when we got this book into the self-publishing with KDP, we realized that, oh, well, middle grade really needs to be available to teachers. It needs to be available to libraries. It needs to be available to stores like and as an offering to get out there. And as much as we want to keep the control on that, we decided to investigate Ingram Spark and as well. And TGT, or the Gospel Trilogy, is that was through Ingram Spark. And how would you compare Amazon and Ingram?
Two awful things. I mean, they're like apples or oranges and grapefruit. They're like the same bad thing. Ingram, the only problem with Ingram is because of, and I know KDP is kind of like this bad market and they own the market, but they have the distribution parts. With Ingram, you have to work with the distribution side of things.
Right.
So, for example, I had this wonderful pre-order campaign set up with Silverstone's books. It was fantastic. We did this with Tana through the KDP side. With TGT, God's Blood Tragedy, I ordered the proof, and you have to pay for the printing because obviously KDP does their own printing. Ingram does the printing, but the shipping is not through them. Like, with Prime, you get Prime shipping from Amazon. So you have to pay for the expedited shipping with Ingram, but then you have to rely on a third party to ship. So even if you pay for the extra time to ship or pay for the extra to ship, it takes just as long, like if not longer. So like, for example, I purchased the proof copy on Friday, and I purchased for all the pre-order copies on Friday to print 50 books. And I paid the extra money to get the 3 business days. And I just got the confirmation last night at like 8 p.m. from Ingram, which was the 3rd business day, saying, yeah, we're going to ship. Well, then I get the 20, and then it's like, oh, you got 24 hours before UPS is going to say, hey, we're going to get this shipping for the ground and you can track it. I didn't get it until about 6 p.m. tonight. So like, that's, even though I paid for 3 days, I'm still not getting that 3 days shipping. It's still an extra day. So it's just a pain in the butt on everything. But Ingram does have some better stuff. Because my book is chonky as heck, KDP cuts off hardbacks at 500 pages. Mine is over 500 pages. Ingram did offer, they do dust jackets. And because this book has been percolating for almost 17 years now, I decided, what the hell? Let's give this awesome, or let me give my book an awesome hardback cover to the people that pre-ordered. So that's what we did. So yeah, it's just one of those things. So I want to show Bo's question here, and that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, or comment. I hadn't really thought of that. We do everything ourselves for the most part with Tana. We did everything with Tana ourselves.
And I want to say why. The reason why we did, one of the reasons why, aside from Dewey being an awesome illustrator who did the cover and all that stuff, we don't have to pay out. Over the many, many years of me writing TGT and working with critique partners and doing a lot of beta reads and all that stuff, I became pretty decent at looking at a book from an editorial perspective and know how to edit a book without sacrificing authorial voice. Like, and this is what always bothers me with some people that do editors or that works with editors, is they just follow the rules to a T. And while that's great, if you follow the rules to a T, sometimes your books are just going to, the prose is going to just look a little monotonous, a little kind of by the numbers.
Mechanical.
It's not gonna, you're not gonna have a good, like, I just can tell when a person just follows an editor who doesn't really write books, because you can tell when an author does an editing job versus just an editor doing an editing job, because it's just, you have that voice as an author. You have a style and you have a specific look or a way you want your book to read. And I use Cormac McCarthy as like a big time author that is this way. Like Cormac McCarthy does not write your normal way. Like his sentences are just really weird. Sometimes he doesn't even use punctuation. Like it's just it's weird, but that's his style. And if you take that away for just the grammar and the structure and the MLA, the Chicago style APA, all that stuff, you're taking away what might be the heart and soul of a book, in my opinion. My opinion doesn't mean anything. I'm just a guy on the internet with the book that I wrote. But being a self-published author and being able to do this versus going trad, both me and Dewey were able to work with that type of mindset in that, we could tell the story how we want it to be told and have our voice be how we want it to be told. I know for a fact, I like long sentences at times. I like run-on sentences. I like commas. I like M dashes. And I know a lot of people in like the editors are like, no, don't use M dashes. Don't use commas in here. Make your sentences nice and neat and stuff. I don't like that at all the time. So go ahead, Dewey. I know you want to say something. What do you want to say?
But I wanted to add to that well, and I want to come back to Bo's comment here in just a second too, because I think that's I have a question for him. But the thing I wanted to say was that if you are intentional with your style, if you go into writing and you know what you want your vision to look like, and you know what you want your voice to look like, and you know that you've worked hard to kind of to shape that style, and then to have someone come in as an editor and try to cookie cut that style into something that would be marketable, something that could sell to an agent, something that could sell to traditional publishing and whatever. The minute you start looking at it from that angle, and I'm not talking about those that may be new to writing, that haven't really thought through their style, like Bill, 17 years of writing, he knows his style.
I do now.
What he wants to get out there, and the same for me, and the same with my art as well. I don't want help with that. What I want help with is to make sure that everything makes sense. I want everything I want the story to actually make sense and to resonate, and that's what I would want an editor for. And what Bill does when we first started working, which I've always loved about our relationship, is that what he just said about coming at it from an author, keeping the integrity of the author's vision, he does that. The edits he makes keeps the integrity of the story. It doesn't change it to be mechanical. It changes it to be better, to be a shinier version of what it was. And I think that's the power of having a good editor. Now, and a good editorial eye. What I wanted to say with Bo's comment about the self-pub versus indie, I wasn't actually aware of this delineation. I didn't know, and so I was curious. I mean, I know what you're saying, but I'm curious. Where, Bill, are you familiar with like this? If I'm self-pub, I'm doing everything myself versus indie.
I mean, I guess indie is kind of a nebulous term in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, and everybody else can have their own opinion on this. But the way I see indie is small press, micro press, and then self-pub. That's kind of indie in my mind. When I say small press, I mean like maybe 4 or 5 books a year that they publish. It's a small number. And they don't have very many books in the back catalog, all that good stuff. But you can cut that in the middle and say that the small press, micro press is different from self-pub. And I think this is what Bo is getting to, is the micro press and the self or small press, they work with people that are strictly editors, that are strictly cover artists. Like that comes kind of out of like their contract. Like if you're a hybrid published, that's where you work with a small press, and they have their little editors and their artists that they work with, and you sign a contract with them, and then your royalties are affected. Whereas self-published, you get all the royalties yourself. Like you do all the work. If you hire out to editors or beta readers or cover artists, whatever, that comes out of your pocket directly. Whereas with the other side of, the indie small press, micro press, it comes out of that press's money. And then it just affects your bottom dollar even worse.
Well, I will say I am a complete control freak. I have a lot of trouble with
perfection.
With what?
Perfection.
Oh yeah. It's kind of I'm working on it. But with Tana, it was all about, I don't want anyone else trying this. I don't want anyone else besides Bill having a say in what's going on here. This story is the world as we envision it, and that's what's going to be. And if people like it, great. If people don't, okay, that's fine. But at least the integrity is there. And as far as the vision goes, like it's 100% ours. And that's what I can say fully with Tana, is that it's 100% our vision. Now, I'm also going to say that not everyone has the luxury for cover art and for internal art of doing it themselves. Not everyone has that. And so what I would encourage is to really do your research and find the people that will represent your vision the best that they can, and not and also not charge you an arm and a leg, in the process, but not using AI and not using not trying to convince you that, oh well, this looks better and whatever. I really encourage you to find those folks. And that's just part of that. I always say indie community, but maybe it's self-publishing community. I don't.
No, I think, and I just had it up, but Andrew made a good point that indie sounds less, or sound. I'll bring Bose back up in a second, but bring up Andrew, what he said. Self-pub just sounds like people have such a stigma against self-pub, like the title self-pub. So indie is kind of more of like a easier.
Okay. I'll go with that. Whatever works. And that's that's going to speak to another topic that would probably serve for another video, which is the perceptions of, oh, I'm traditionally pub. Oh, I got an agent. Oh, you're self-publishing. Oh, bless your heart. That kind of needless. That's just pointless. Why? We're all trying to get a story out. And anyway, it is what it is, I guess. Taste when it comes to self-pub, because there are so many poor quality books flooding Amazon every year by authors who don't take the time like you did to do it right.
Yeah, I think, Bo, this could be a whole topic of discussion that would take a good long time, because it just kind of like what Dewey just said, is that there is that stigma of self-pub, but also, and this, I'm going to credit Andrew on this one, because, I talked to him last summer about this, a good time ago. It's the people that just go in thinking that they're going to drop a great book and not like make waves or even kind of interact with anybody into the community, the indie community. It just, you're not helping yourself. I mean, I'm just going to, again, say this. You're not helping yourself if you don't ingratiate yourself into the indie community, whether it's on Twitter, X, whatever they want to call it, Instagram, TikTok, whatever social media way you want to get around it, whichever one is your least likely to hate, get into it, because this community is great. You know, there's great people in this community, and those people are going to help you. And if you think you don't need help in self-publishing, then you're, I don't want to say delusional, because that would just be rude to imply that people are delusional. But, you know, if you think you're going to go and be in a success right away, you're going to take some knocks. It's just going to knock you back. And the best way you can go about it is getting into it before you can publish your book, and learn from people that have done it before you. Like I said, Andrew and Tim and Mike, who was on earlier, Mike Roberti, who was on earlier, all three of them really helped our release for Tana, because I got to pick their brains of what worked for them. And again, not everything works for everybody, but just being able to hear their stories and what worked for them helped us. Yeah. And then, you know, each book gets easier and easier and easier.
I want to say, I also want to appreciate what the clarification that Bo posted, because, you know, I think that's a great perspective to have. People work on definitions and categories, and you know, that's how they best understand something from the outside. And I think that I really appreciate you bringing that up, because you're right. You know, I was just reading an article about, well, no, it wasn't an article. It was on, Facebook. It was on the Facebook. I sound like my mom. It was on the Facebook, and and it was one of those reels, and it was a reel about some lady who was like, you want to make hundreds of dollars and use AI to help you create coloring books. And it was like her, like, you know, buy my program, buy my whatever, and I'll step you through how to make all these coloring books and flood Amazon KDP with coloring books that were generated by AI. And my stomach went, I thought, good Lord. So that's where we're going. I don't.
Yeah.
And so if that's what people are associating with the word self-pub, then I will gladly not use that word, even though that's what we're doing, because that's not the image we want. This was hard work. It was a lot of work, and I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of working with Bill on this. And I think that speaks more to the accomplishment. Even if we just sold one copy, I would still be just as proud, because I think that what we went through to get it out there is what the indie publishing is all about. That's what it is about, taking control of your story and making it available. And if you want to read it, fantastic. But guess what? It's there for you to read. And I think that's what we did. And I'm happy then with the indie publishing tag. That works for me.
So for a few more minutes, I know we've kind of gone well over an hour here, but I want to see if anybody has any silly questions or fun, goofy questions they want to ask of us before we drop off. But Dave, what did Dave say? Dave had an agent, wasn't great. Rather do it myself. Marketing can be kind of fun. I mean, when you got a face for radio like you do, Dave, it's perfect.
Oh, come on! I think
Dave's
a rather handsome guy.
Man. Dave is very handsome. His TikToks are pretty funny, especially when he got attacked by Tana the other day. I don't know if you saw that video, Dewey.
No,
Dave posted.
I didn't.
He got attacked by a bunch of books. Tana was in there.
Oh, I have to go look. And he has the most awesome Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt. I just love it. He showed it the other day on Twitter. Face for radio.
So yeah, face for radio. That's my dad's joke. You know, he's a classic boomer. That's what I can say. Dad jokes. Okay, Dewey. Oh, and if people want to come up with questions, please drop them in. But I got one for you. A silly question.
Oh, yeah. You do? Okay.
Okay. And this is my talk about the apocalypse here.
Oh,
If you
okay.
were
Here we go.
dropped into the Mad Max wasteland, what would your getup be, and what would your vehicle be, and what would your name be?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, I haven't seen Mad Max since it's been a while, Bill. Okay,
You didn't see
but I do
Fury
know.
Road?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, you
I
need to
need.
rectify that. Jesus Christ.
Well, the other one just came out.
Yeah, Furiosa. I mean, that we can get into that a lot on another chat. I liked it, but it was not the same.
Okay.
But-
So what would my get up be? Well, first of all, I'm in
because you know
Australia,
how like
so that means it's
because
hot.
you know in like the Mad Max movies they all wear like the BDSM gear and like the face
Yeah.
masks and
Right.
hockey
Right.
pads and stuff like that. What would your get up be? What would your vehicle of choice be? And what would your name be?
Okay. Well, I'm in Australia, so it's hot. I would definitely want a cape. So it would be like a kangaroo pelt. And so I would have that.
A
And
kangaroo
as
pelt?
far, yeah, we're in Australia, so it's got to be a
Okay,
kangaroo
all right.
pelt.
I'm just making sure.
With his little hands like tied around my neck like this and just kind of hanging. It'd be better if you were alive though. That would be fun. Like I could
No, that
then
would be
untie him and
rude.
go attack.
That would be mean. That animal cruelty. No.
No, I'm not being cruel. It'd be my pet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see. For my name, I don't know what kind of name. Like, what was Tina Turner's name? What did she?
Auntie or auntie.
Really? So it's like lame like that. So it's Mad Max,
Yeah.
Auntie. I would be.
There's the gyro captain. That was his name.
Let's
Warrior
see.
Woman. That was her name in the credits.
Well, I can't be Warrior Woman. I'm thinking something like Chorizo or something. Chorizo. Here comes Chorizo. He's gonna take down the barbarians, and I come in with my kangaroo pelt.
You've been watching Coco lately, Chorizo.
No, I love chorizo. I grew up on it. It's
But that's
I live
not okay. You be
Well,
Vegemite
okay.
maybe? Can you be
How about-
Vegemite?
Oh yeah, there you go. Here comes Vegemite. He's he's the fearsome Vegemite with his kangaroo pelt and. Oh no, I have no idea.
We're getting out of hand here. Okay,
Yeah.
what would your
I mean-
vehicle choice be?
Well, I guess it wouldn't be a Tesla.
Look.
Although one of those Tesla trucks is perfect for Mad Max, just because they look like you can attach a turret to the top. Yeah, it would have to be a tank. I'd have to have a tank. I think I have seen what Fury Road where it's got the grill on the front and they're like spikes.
Yeah.
And, okay, yeah, so like a cattle thing. Yeah, I would want that because there's gonna be people in the way, and I've got to get through. The Cybertruck, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I could have a Cybertruck with a solar panel on the top. That way, I'm getting my energy.
I mean, it looks like a solar panel's on it anyway.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've seen like 6 or 7 of them here. Where
It looks like a kid built that out of Legos, and that's what they decided to go with.
I wouldn't insult Legos like that. I mean, Legos will look better.
The Duplos.
The Duplo build. Okay, Dave asked a question though.
Yeah,
he did
Dave
ask
asked
a
a
question. Who would win? Well, Bill. I just lay there.
I mean, I am a bigger gentleman than he is. Taller and wider.
What about a thumb war match?
I don't know. But do we cheat? Do you do those little?
And I'm a big believer in just like, I'll just let him.
Oh, you would just let me win then?
No.
See,
I probably would.
I don't know.
That way you would go away, and then I would get up and go to safety. My lizard brain would kick in and be like,
Oh, good gosh.
I don't have swords like you
Okay.
guys do.
All right, Dewey. Here's a question, and this is going to be a topic that we're going to talk quite a bit on. Curmudgeon or Schmudgeon of Curmudgeon is bad B movies.
Oh
And when
yeah.
I say bad B movies, I mean good B movies. So,
Okay.
what is your favorite bad B movie?
That's a hard question. Oh, what's my favorite? Okay. So I have a lot. I actually have quite a few of them. So let's see if I can rank them. There's one movie. I don't know if you ever heard of it. That's really a lot of fun. It's called Puma Man. It's about yeah, okay. It's more of a made-for-TV movie, but it's really a lot of fun because it's so terrible. Let's see. Another one is Hobgoblins. So Hobgoblins is it was a Gremlins ripoff. That is absolutely horrible. I actually saw it in the theater
Oh
a couple
Jesus!
years ago. They did a reshowing of it. Let's see. I would say Ator. The Ator movies are a lot of fun. So Ator and the Spider Kingdom, Samurai Cop, perfect. Samurai, the first
That's a
one,
great one, Tim.
the first one, Samurai Cop, especially when he's wearing the wig because because like there's parts of it where that were shot after the movie was made and he had to come back for shoots, but the main actor had cut his hair and so they put a wig on him with a cap and it looks terrible. It's just awful. And that actor is so bad. Um, Gosh, what's another great movie? Well, the Deathstalker movies. Well, I don't really like the first one, but Deathstalker 2
Well,
is
yeah,
one.
we're gonna have our own discussion video on Deathstalker too, because Dewey just had me watch it the other day, a couple weeks ago, and oh boy,
Oh boy. Yeah, Monique Gabrielle is the actress in that, and she is not she's something to behold. I don't know that one, Andrew. Gentlemen Broncos? Oh, wait, I do. I do know that one. Hold on, digging through my brain. That
I've been
was
here a while.
really my brain is like a 5400 RPM hard drive, which isn't, I guess, that fast. I guess that's not that fast. Yeah. Oh well, whatever. I do remember Gentlemen of Broncos from something. I might have to look it up now. Oh no, you know what? I'm going to ask you, Andrew, when we talk. Oh, by the way, just a plug. We are interviewing Andrew. Come when Saturday?
Saturday, yeah, Saturday at 8 p.m. The
Super
second
excited.
episode of Smudgeon of Curmudgeon is going to be with Mr.
That's right.
Andrew D. Meredith. The
Napoleon
same
Dynamite's
name?
good. I
Oh,
wouldn't call Napoleon Dynamite a B movie though.
no.
Napoleon Dynamite is a formation movie. That formed a generation of people. But and I know that's not what you were saying. But yeah, a lot of my movies. Well, for you, Bill, what's a good B movie for you?
I mean, I don't know if you would consider them B movies because they were pretty popular, but I don't know why, but I love the American Ninja movies. Like those
Oh,
are so bad that they're good. And like the further along in the movie series you get, they're even more ridiculous.
huh.
Like there was the gentleman, I can't even remember his name, but he died in real life before the fourth one came out. So they brought back Michael Dudikoff to replace
Oh
him.
God.
But he was like the American guy that was kind of like, I don't want to stereotype just because of his race, but he was like trying to be like the Shaft character, where he was the tough
Yeah.
black gentleman, and he just kicked so much butt. And God, the American Ninja movies are so bad. They're so bad, they're great. And then there's the other ninja movies. What were the? Oh man, can't think of the other ninja movie names. But those were. I love the ninja. I don't know why I like the ninja movies. Like I grew up in the early '90s, so like that was the best movies. Never seen this one.
Hottie Boom Baladi. Oh my gosh, y'all.
Okay, but I'm going to say, you know what? Oh, Cobra Kai. Yeah, definitely Cobra Kai. You know what? And I don't know if y'all have seen this, but one of my favorite movies that is a parody of B movies is specifically blaxploitation movies is Black Dynamite. You ever seen Black Dynamite?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that movie is one of the funniest movies.
Didn't we watch that
ever.
together?
We did. I made you watch it.
Yeah, yeah. That was...
Oh my God, I love Black Dynamite. And he's been the same guy has been working on a Western for like 10 years now. The Outlaw Johnny Black, it's called. And it's supposed to come out soon, I hope. But it's going to skewer Westerns just the way that he skewered the blaxploitation 70s movies. And got Black Dynamite. Check it out for sure if you haven't seen it.
Well, guys, I was going to say,
last one. Is there any last questions? I don't want to keep you guys too much long. Oh, Last Dragon. Yeah, definitely Last Dragon. Last Dragon. Definitely agree with that one. I don't know if Dewey's seen that one.
I have to look and see.
So, well, that's I think that's a good way to close this. The Dewey, we've been talking for an hour and a half now, and people are probably tired of us.
Only an hour and a half?
Only, yeah, we can ramble all night long. But no, thank you to everybody that joined us. This was our first episode of Schmudgeon of Curmudgeon. We're hoping to do multiple of these, per month. Probably not every week, but give or take. We're gonna talk multiple different topics, books, bad movies, sci-fi stuff. We're going to interview some more people. Again, we're going to plug on Saturday this weekend. We are going to interview Mr. Andrew Meredith. And we also want to, for those that are watching now, we want to introduce Andrew as the newest member of Willow Wraith Press. He's joined with us, and we're going to get to know a little bit more about him on Saturday. So thank you, everybody. Have a great 4th of July weekend if you're off, and be safe. Don't hurt yourselves. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.